Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Red Pill Nation Hangout number 418, 2024, the year in review, part 2. Mark Edworthy and, why am I blanking out about his name?
Roger,
are not currently, they might join us at a later point, but they are not here tonight, right here at the moment. So we have got, and we've got just the two of us, so we might just get through this surprisingly quickly. On the first one, we covered, and let me just go all the way back here because Jaffe put a super freaking long post up as well on top of everything else. On the first one, we covered the year in review when it came to the manosphere, when it came to culture, and when it came to politics. This time around, we will be doing the year in technology, the just general news in overall, and of course we will finish off with the Canada content. And I did put the Canada content last for a very specific reason. I wanted to make sure that that the Canada content was last for a very specific reason. But without any further ado, for those of you who don't know, I am at Patreon as Rookie5. I am currently at BitChute, Rumble, MGTOW TV, Odyssey, Brighteon in YouTube. I am at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, and TLB Talks. The other news is that I haven't figured out the day yet, but I'm going to start doing a live cast probably on Rumble. And I don't know what day of the week it's going to be on yet. It probably won't be a Wednesday, and it definitely won't be a Sunday. But it will be, it'll cover it. I'm just going to be straight up with you. It's probably going to be more of a MGTOW Manosphere style show as opposed to what I do here on the Red Pill Nation, where we cover the news. It should be interesting, and when I was meditating on how I was going to get myself out there a little bit more, that felt like the right answer. And as Rearson knows, my intuition has a very nasty habit of being correct. So I'm going to trust my intuition on this. Purchase a full membership on Rumble, and I'm going to start live streaming to Rumble. So the issues tonight that we're talking about. Oh yeah, by the way, Rearson, introduce yourself.
yeah, if I must. Well, the show must go on. Feeling between both Naroki and I. You know who I am. I'd apologize for that, but it's being sincere, so there's no point. I've known this Joker for half my life now, and no, there's no stopping that train. Well, there is, but I sort of derailed it. So we're here. Let's get going, man.
All right. Yes. Apologies if the energy level seems low, if we're not tossing around the jokes tonight. This is one of, like Rusin said, this is one of those ones where it's like, the show must go on. So we're going to get on with the show here. So we're going to start right off the bat here with the technology section of this particular thing, and I'm going to read off all of the stories that I put under the tech sector, and then I will comment on the ones that I think are probably most relevant to what happened this year, and the ones that I think might potentially drag out for next year. This Rumble takes a coordinated attack. YouTube makes more insane changes that makes it harder for people to use who won't pay. Twitter uncovers abuse of community notes. Louis Rossman and the Grey J app. That one could potentially be really important. Sweet Baby exposed, calls for censorship, harassment of critics. In the end, Sweet Baby Scrub's website. That one I'm probably going to be covering quite a bit. Google image AI exposed as racist. Yeah, that one. We're gonna be covering that one quite a bit. Truth about Dr. Disrespect. There's some stuff that went on with him. If either one of us comments on it, I don't really know. Twitter sues Garm over its practices. That one I'm going to probably end up commenting on. Mr. Beast employee Chris Chatelain gets caught interacting with underage children. Yeah, I'm definitely commenting on that one.
And also changes sex conveniently, but leave that alone.
Yep. Apple caught engaging in anti-white racism. Yeah, no. SI SIN information released online.
Is that okay? What is that? What is that SIN?
Social insurance numbers, Canada and the US. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I don't remember that, but okay.
Yeah, I remember that one quite specifically. First series talk about breaking up Google. That one I might talk about. Pavel Dura from Telegram arrested in France. Yeah, that one I think requires some discussion. MSM quietly joins Rumble. Tenant Media exposed most content produced. Okay, yeah, I don't really have much. When we get to Lawrence Southern, I might talk a little bit more about Tenant Media. Woke streamers losing support after the election. Again, nothing big there. The debacle that was Dragon Age. Again, probably not going to talk too much about that one. And the swatter of the quarter in COD. Now, that one might be interesting. That one, I definitely might have some stuff to say. But going right back to the top, I made a prediction. Well, I didn't say make a prediction, but I made a projection that Big Tech was going to try and take a run at Rumble this year. There's only like 2 hours left in this year, at least where we're sitting, and they did twice. Neither time really worked because Chris Pavlovsky or whatever the hell you want to pronounce it, kind of knew what was coming. Brazil banned Rumble for all the good. Brazil also banned VPNs, which of course has probably not really having the effect that it wanted to have. In the end, what ended up happening with Rumble, and this goes all the way back to topic N, the MSM finally decided to suck it up and join Rumble. And they very quietly jumped on board. You now have CNN, you have MSNBC, you have ABC News, you have all of those mainstream networks now all quietly jumped on to Rumble. And here is the thing, and this is something that I think needs to be kept in mind. Keep in mind, Rumble still has a very rightward leaning bias in its content because of how it got started. But Rumble is not artificially propping up the MSM on their channel the way YouTube is doing. As a consequence, those networks are not getting a lot of views. CNN actually appears to have gone on and then kind of like backed off. But CNN did join Rumble. So that was a very, very interesting that was a very interesting take. But again, Rumble survived. There is going to be another run at Rumble, I suspect, this year. But it will fail. But I mean, it's like that is going to be I'm thinking it's going to be for 419, but we'll see. Oh my God, YouTube. How Well, YouTube still has, I think it's like 80 to 85% of the audience, of the viewership in terms of its video content. Uh, One thing I have noticed about YouTube is that a lot of, and I thought I was kind of unique with this idea, but apparently I'm not. Like, if there are channels that will only post up at YouTube and don't post up elsewhere, and they've got interesting content, people are downloading the videos from YouTube and posting them at Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute, but specifically with Rumble. And YouTube has been very quietly trying to crack down on the apps that enable you to download YouTube content. And it hasn't really been working particularly well, because it's like they shut one down and another one starts up, or they change things around to make it more difficult, and again, right, it just makes it, they just simply switch over. So the whole thing, I mean, YouTube just keeps making, although I had noticed as the year went along that YouTube kind of slowed down on these changes, specifically after Susan Wojcicki died. But they slowed down these changes. It's almost like they kind of know now that they've actually got competition, and they cannot afford to continuously be censorious. Because I mean, look, all of what YouTube did, and I got to point out, YouTube did run block for Biden. They did suppress Trump's content. They did clearly take a side in the election. YouTube did that, and it didn't accomplish anything. Why? Because everybody just went over. Like, 20% of the population is still a lot, and that overwhelming 20% just went over and watched what the idiot politicians were doing over on Rumble, as opposed to watching the mainstream media on YouTube. So it really didn't work out particularly well for them. You know, I got nothing but disdain. And again, right, I get people occasionally getting mad at me because I take YouTube videos and I download them to my onto my other video platforms, and I got no regrets about doing that, right? Like, if it's possible for me to not watch stuff on YouTube, like with all of the ads, keep in mind, Rumble has ads too. But for whatever reason, I don't find the ad, because the Rumble has its ads at the beginning, and it doesn't barge in, even on a long form show. It doesn't barge in every 15, 20 minutes with another set of ads the way YouTube does. So, I mean, I don't necessarily mind it. And, oh, by the way, that's the other thing YouTube did this year. Besides making it difficult to work with ad blockers, it's like, not only did they make it difficult to deal with ad blockers, but they also pumped in more ads. And it was what it amounts to is a form of extortion. And it's either pay and not have the ads, and the price had just kept going up, or deal with the ads and have to, again, there's still ad blockers that work, but YouTube just keeps defeating themselves, and they find new and better ways to do it. But, however, folks, there is hope on the horizon. The GrayJ app, which I'm gonna have to figure out to download onto my phone, could potentially change everything, because you no longer have to follow a platform, you just have to follow the creator. That's going to change everything in the end, which is probably one of the reasons why the Google Play Store and the other app store have been resisting so mightily and trying to prevent GrayJ from getting on there, even though they keep losing lawsuits, but they still won't have the GrayJ app. which is kind of interesting. This tells you about how truly desperate they are. Sweet baby, good God, we could go on for a while about this. Is Gamergate Part 2. And unlike, and I've covered this over the past 2 or 3 episodes, but I'm going to cover it again. Unlike 10 years ago, when the previous Gamergate came around, YouTube and the mainstream media were able to kind of effectively run block for the woke side. Although actually they weren't even called woke back then, they were called the SJWs. This time around, they're not able to run block. Twitter does not have their back anymore. When we get into the regular news, we'll be talking about Robbie Starbuck. Twitter does not have their back anymore. Rumble is, yeah, okay. Rumble might only be 20% of the size of Google at the moment. Keep in mind that Google has an international audience, though, whereas Rumble is still primarily in the West. So Rumble's influence is probably a lot larger than the 10 to 15% that it's got. I'm probably going to say it's probably got a significant chunk of the North American audience, like something like 60 to 70% of just regular people. Not even that many, probably something like 85 to 90% of regular people now know about Rumble. So, yeah, Sweet Baby, they did the same thing they did with Gamergate Part 1, and it doesn't work. And it's like any game system that hires Sweet Baby has to go to extraordinary lengths to hide its involvement with Sweet Baby, because if they get caught knowingly having people from Sweet Baby on their team, yeah, they're going to lose sales. It's like the kiss of death. And it got to the point this year where Sweet Baby literally went to Metacritic and they went to Steam, and they asked both of those sites to basically do what Rotten Tomatoes does for movies, which is hide the scores or delay putting the scores out, or hiding the sales numbers. And of course they didn't do it, because they damn well know that they don't have the same push, and they can't shame people into they can't shame these companies into, because they know that they know that the SJW thing is just a paper dragon. Google Image AI. Oh my God. They tried desperately to try to pass that off as an accident, until Andrew Torba explained to them how the image maker works and what you have to do in order to make it work. And then, of course, it also turns out that, the guy who's running Google Image AI is engaged in like flaming anti-white racism. And I think they took it down for like a few weeks, and then they brought it back different. But yeah, it was bad. And again, Google isn't and as we go down here, we go into topic L. Like, for the first time ever, there was actually some serious talk. So far, it's just talk at this point, but there's some actual serious talk in DC about breaking up Google for good reason. Twitter suing GARM. Okay, GARM got caught with its fingers in the cookie jar. GARM were the people who were the ones who kept refreshing this page and kept manipulating this page. So they got the one page that showed this ad on this one particular site, and then they sent out a copy of that to various people trying to claim that, this particular ad appeared on this particular person's page, except of course that Google knows how to keep Twitter knows how to keep track of that. They went back and they looked and they found the evidence. They caught Garm red-handed. Elon Musk immediately went over and sued Garm, and Garm shut its doors. Garm is no more. And now that Garm is no more, you're starting to see, the advertisers are starting to come back. And, they're not, like, you're not seeing all of the hit pieces on Twitter in the mainstream media anymore, because it's like, yeah, Garm is no more. They got caught. Mr. Beast, again, right? This falls into like Mr. Beast. Just like, I mean, a few years ago, he was like literally nobody, and all of a sudden, he's like so large that he's like bigger than PewDiePie and almost bigger than PewDiePie and T-Series put together. Like, that's how quickly he shot up. Now, I have never seen any of, well, actually, I went back and saw some of Mr. Beast's earliest videos, but he did shoot up very, very quickly. And he did look the other way on what Ava Chris Tyson was doing. Now, there's two possibilities here. Either he did know or he didn't know. If he did know, he either ignored it because Ava Chris Tyson was a friend of his, for a long time friend of his, or B, Ava Chris Tyson basically threatened Mr. Beast with a smear campaign if Mr. Beast revealed it. Now, there's a third possibility here, and that's that is that Mr. Beast just decided to bite the bullet and rat out Ava Chris Tyson on his own. But that's not how it went down. And once it got out about Ava Chris Tyson, all of the other stuff that Mr. Beast has been doing came out. And again, I don't watch Mr. Beast's content, but I mean, Mr. Beast is mainstream. If I go into a convenience store and I will see Mr. Beast endorsed products in that store. Like, he is mainstream. So, yeah, Chris Tyson really did some damage to that brand, and Mr. Beast either ignored it or was afraid to do something about it. One of the two. Now, your social insurance information being released online, yes, it did get released online. Yes, it did get auctioned away. I'm not going to lie. I have noticed that since that's happened, that on my phone, I get a lot more spam emails and callers and so forth than I was before this happened. So, yeah, my name was on that list, obviously. I just ignore most of it, but it's annoying. And it tells you how weak the security in DC is when it comes to safeguarding things like social insurance numbers. Now, Pavel Durov being arrested. Again, in this, we'll get, when we talk about 2025, we'll get more into this. They have to start putting the screws to alt tech and alt media, because it's like too many people are figuring out what the hell is going on, and too many people are just giving the establishment the middle finger and are in the process of walking out or have walked out. And that number is going to continue to get bigger, specifically with the manosphere, as more men find out. So, yeah, not particularly surprised that they would go after Pavel Durov. Pavel Durov eventually caved in and let the state, I think it was somebody in the Biden administration that was behind the arrest, but it let the government spooks have access to the software what it basically boiled down to. That's really all about it. I'm not surprised that the woke streamers lost support. In fact, I have noticed in the past 3 months that woke streamers are just getting the shit kicked out of them. Swatting is something that so far I've been lucky on. I haven't actually had somebody try and find me, but twice this year, once very recently, I think it was only about a month ago, and then once I think in July, and then it was in July, and then it was another. Yeah, those were the two big ones. Somebody I had a disagreement with on Facebook tried like literally every day for 6 weeks to try to access my Twitter accounts. Somebody also around that same time tried to get my Steam, tried to get my Instagram, tried to get my LinkedIn, tried to get a whole bunch of accounts. I had to spend probably about an hour in my room on the day because I was at work, changing all the passwords on my computer because I couldn't do it on the phone in order to prevent this. And I had to go through some hoops to get my Steam account back, and I was able to prevent them from taking my Instagram, but I can't log into my Instagram either. And oh yeah, I've had to change the password on my main email a number of times this year, like at least 3 or 4. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
Okay, Rumble takes coordinated attack. Well, that was to be expected at some point. I mean, as I've said before, YouTube can be, it's not just YouTube, any person, any corporation, any empire, company, country, whatever, will only be able to remain at the top for so long, and then it's a decline and someone else will take your place. So that's not terribly surprising. And they'd rather deal with YouTube now before it gets, not YouTube, YouTube, well, I guess YouTube and its government backing would like to deal with Rumble as soon as possible rather than later on. And speaking of which, YouTube more changes. God, fuck, whatever. If YouTube was actually profitable, then there wouldn't have been all of these changes, but really in the end, it never was. Let's be honest. Twitter encourages use of community notes. I don't remember anything about that. Don't care. Yes, the Grey J app. I think that is going to be something that is going to that's going to have a slow creep on YouTube, especially. Oh, sweet baby ink. Oh, fuck. Aside from Justin Trudeau at this point, the only other thing that makes me more embarrassed about being Canadian or almost is sweet baby being from Montreal. So we'll leave all of that alone. Google imaging exposes racist. Oh yeah, did they ever do that in fucking fashion? What was it like? George Washington suddenly became black, and now the other individuals in the past suddenly became black when they were Caucasian. This is why I don't use Google, and I reluctantly use Android because I've had enough experience of dealing with Mac users in retail, and they're a pain in the ass, freaking pretentious. Not iPhones specifically, but Mac users. Pardon me. Truth about Dr. Disrespect, I don't care. Twitter Seuss Garm, I don't remember. Mr. Beast. There's a lot of speculation about Mr. Beast, and it's not just the whole thing with Christopher, Christy, Tyson, whatever you want to fucking call him. And it's along the lines of I've said it before in a previous show. I don't know, to me, it really kind of seems no different than the alleged Diddy list of celebrities, royalty, whoever that have attended Diddy parties, and they have they sold their soul to be or to get what they have. And I've seen enough fakery and fuckery be exposed for the stunts that Mr. Beast pulls off anyway. So whatever. My son doesn't watch this stuff. He didn't watch too much of it before. At least it wasn't a big thing. I mean, I still have my questions about Mark Roper as well, too. I mean, the guy used to work for NASA, and that organization is shifty in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. I'm caught engaging in anti-white racism, whatever. Social insurance information being released online. Well, stuff like that is going to happen at some point, and it's bound to happen, which is we don't want it to. Breaking up with Google. I don't know about that one because when Standard Oil got broken up into Texaco and all of the other companies, all they ended up doing is just having more companies that the Rockefeller family and investors like them would just invest money into them, and all of a sudden now they actually had more cash than they did before. So, don't know. We'll see. Pavel Durov again. Oh, that was right. That was Telegram. I see Telegram and Rumble as basically being one and the same, although they're owned by different people. That one seems fishy as all fuck. Mainstream quietly joins Rumble. For once, they actually have foresight into the way things are going, or more likely to be going, and they're going to stay that way. Tenet Media. Yeah. If Lauren Chen wasn't such a pretentious, ignorant, can't quite call her a skank, but if the woman actually tried to take the time to understand how men actually are, rather than being from her position of safety and security and being married to a millionaire, I would have more sympathy for her. Not S-I-M, but S-Y-M. Pathy for her. I'm kind of at the point where if she ends up getting destroyed, oh well. It's not my problem. I'm not clapping those cheeks, and she's probably too small-titted for me anyway. Extremists losing support after election. Well, yeah, it's about fucking time. I mean, there's one thing that's been going on, and I don't remember where I heard it. I think it was earlier today. And I think it was either the Pleb or Moose on the Loose. But we've just been putting up with so much woke crap that we've hit that saturation point, and the pushback has been more than a long time coming. And especially in light of how much the American economy, not that it was doing all that well. I mean, it was doing things were looking better for 4 years under Trump, but since Biden won, and however you want to define the word won, and things have been going downhill. Any wokesters that are out there that are trying to prop up the Biden administration, saying everything's all great and everything else, when what was that song? Which Way to Your America? I think it was by Living Color. Yeah, it was on their Vivid album. I believe it was the last song. Anyway, the TV says one thing. You look, the person from the perspective of the song looks out the window and sees something else, and that's basically it. So I'm glad that they've been able to shoot themselves in the foot. They took a gamble, probably got paid quite a bit up front. I hope it was worth it for them, but that's not my money. Sorry, that's not my cash that was paid out. That's not and it's not my reputation or my integrity that's been compromised. Dragon Age. Oh, fuck. Whatever. Whatever. Like, it is a big fucking nothing burger, to say the least. we don't want women objectified and blah, blah, blah. Okay, if you don't want women objectified, great. Don't monetize or objectify men, you stupid twats. God, I got no use for women anymore. Fuck me. I really don't. Well, at least not the modern ones, because they don't know what the hell they want. Swat of the quartering caught. Yeah, I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, leave people be. I've gone through a stalker phase of my life. I've grown out of it, and I take great strides to ensure that that doesn't come out. I do have an addictive personality, which is not surprising for you, my friend, because you know that already. But just fucking leave people alone. You don't like them, you don't disagree with them if you want, go ahead. That's fine. If push comes to shove and you want to cross the line, well, then you need to start taking a look and figuring out where's the problem, because the problem's with you. So, but then again, too, I mean, that swatter could also be, that person could also be under MK Ultra mind control. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. So that's all I gotta say. So let's move on to the news.
Yeah. Again, I haven't had to deal with somebody really insane, but I mean, Rearson knows I've had to deal with I've had a couple of death threats. I've had somebody. Well, I had somebody actually so obsessed with me that they actually went out of their way to get an account that I had with 9 followers taken down. Right? It's the reason that now why YouTube, of the 6 platforms that I'm on, YouTube is the smallest. Right? Like I use YouTube, and this is something that a lot of people in our sphere have had to do. They will put stuff up at YouTube, but they don't promote it, and YouTube doesn't promote it. And well, here's the really weird part about that, and this is something that I have noticed. It's like if I'm posting up on a regular basis on BitChute, Rumble, MGTOW TV, Odyssey, Brighteon, right? If I post up on those 5 platforms, if I'm posting up on a regular basis, my content, I will continue to grow. Sometimes despite myself, but I will continue to grow, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why I take content. And I don't call it stealing. I take content of creators on YouTube that are too fucking myopic to take their content to other platforms. And I share it on other platforms because fuck YouTube. Right? I will go so far as to download their content onto my iPad, and then I will proceed with the iPad to post it up at the other groups. Or if I'm sitting in my room, which I'm doing right now from work, I will do it on my laptop. So yeah, of all the, short of somebody showing up at your door with a gun or a weapon, which we have covered in the past, this is probably the second most life-threatening. This one, you know, the time that Tim Pool, one of the times that Tim Pool got swatted, and it was probably done by the same guy, by the way. Tim Pool had said if the police had broken into that door like 2 minutes earlier, like there was one of his employees that was in that room, it would have been taken totally by surprise, and so it could have gotten really ugly. As it was, it didn't happen. But anyway, with that, let's get into, because the news section is definitely going to be, we might be on that section for a while. Okay, so the news section. There's a lot of stuff in the news section, but I will cover it all. The Iowa school shooter Dylan Butler, we covered that at the time. Person was trans, had mental issues. That is something that has gone through all of them. Tucker Carlson interviews Vladimir Putin. Yeah, that was absolutely necessary. Putin, I think, needed to know that despite what the government had been doing, apparently the government isn't even bothering to talk to Vladimir Putin, that, you know, not like the majority of the people of the United States do not agree with what the current government there was doing. Here's the thing. They tried to prevent Tucker Carlson from re-entering the United States after this interview, and Tucker Carlson's life was threatened. But he was still able to get back in. The next Benedict Libs of TikTok thing. Next Benedict was an individual who was bullied. She was a trans student. Libs of TikTok actually didn't have anything to do with what happened, but there was just like Project 2025, there was a major AstroTurf campaign, which did succeed in getting Libs of TikTok kicked off one platform, that tried to blame Libs of TikTok for Next Benedict, who ultimately wasn't killed. She just committed suicide. It turns out Libs of TikTok had absolutely nothing to do with it. And once it was conclusively proven there was nothing to do with it, it just went silent. The ISIL attack on the Crocus City Hall in Moscow. Wow. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would never commit acts of terrorism anyway. But the Russians have a reputation, because during the Cold War, a couple of times, Middle Eastern terrorists tried to kidnap Russians and do the same thing to Russians that they've been doing to Americans and Japanese and Westerners. And what ended up happening is that those kidnappers ended up finding themselves in little itty bitty pieces, very dead. The Russians don't fuck around on stuff like this. I still do not understand, or actually I kind of do, but it's like, like there's just a genuine lack of seeing things through when you engage in an act like this. First of all, if this had happened in the United States, these guys would have been lucky. These guys probably wouldn't even gotten out of the stadium unless it was in like a blue city. Like if they had tried this in Houston, for instance, like they would have never gotten out of the stadium. They would have never been able to kill as many people because people would have shot back. Even in California, it's like somebody would have been carrying a cup. Actually, given the size of the city hall, a lot of people in that crowd would have been carrying. They did catch these people when they showed them up on trial. There was one guy who had been clearly beaten so bad that his eyeball almost popped out of his head. I have zero sympathy for this group. I already know what I'm pretty sure that the Russians have sentenced them to death, which is probably what they deserve. Because, I mean, killing unarmed civilians for reasons is not a good idea. And, of course, the Ukrainians denied all knowledge of it, and maybe they didn't have anything to do with it, at least not directly. But, yeah, I have to say they're probably somewhere around behind it. The Planet Fitness change. Oh, my God. This Planet Fitness has never recovered. Yes, BlackRock, because we covered the stock ownership of Planet Fitness at the time. BlackRock or whoever it was artificially propped up the stock value of Planet Fitness, but they couldn't hide the actual numbers of people not going to Planet Fitnesses anymore because of what happened. And once they tried to double down and once they tried to openly support it, more and more of it came out. And eventually, I mean, the stock did eventually go down and stay down. But I mean, Planet Fitness has never recovered. And it's like allowing men into a woman's change room, like, because he identifies as a woman. Like, no. Like, just fucking no. Starbucks and Disney confessed to massive losses. No surprise there. Kelso has mentioned something about the Iranians and in Israelis firing missiles at each other, and I keep noticing that they fire missiles at each other, but these missiles keep landing in areas that are unimportant. So, how much of that is actually real, and how much of that is actual just sending a message or theater? I don't know. Um, Iran is in an actual very advantageous position to start something with Israel, though. So what happened with them firing missiles against into Israel was not all that much of a surprise. This one just absolutely leaves me gobsmacked. Gays against groomers is gay. Homosexual people against groomers, right? The SPLC added a gay group onto the list of anti-LGBTQ groups. I mean, you really cannot get any fucking stupider than that. I mean, how does that even work? But then again, SPLC has just, I mean, it's not about poverty or law or representing the disenfranchised. Now it's about whoever's willing to pay them the most money to put these groups on the list. That's what it boils down to with the SPLC. The Nashville shooter. Okay, they went overboard to prevent the manifesto from coming out. Like, they really went overboard trying to protect it. And it was like there was rampant speculation as to why. And when it did come out, the truth of the matter is that there wasn't any she didn't suffer sexual abuse at that school. She just hated white kids. That's literally it. Like, she just hated white kids. So they were trying to protect from revealing anti-white racism. Jay. Wow. This one has some real, although again, I'll think Trump is going to have to do something about this really quickly when he gets into office. Saudi Arabia has elected not to renew the petrodollar deal with the United States. They're probably going to go, and fortunately, I think already there has been some sort of a deal worked out between Trump has worked out some sort of a deal with BRICS, but this one has the potential to really disrupt the apple cart, because as it currently stands, every country in the world, even the ones inside BRICS, have to keep U.S. currency in their vaults in order to buy energy. And now that the petrodollar is no longer in effect, countries are going to start abandoning it. And it's only a matter of time before they simply decide to send their dollars back to the U.S. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a flood of money coming into the U.S. and it's going to hyperinflate something that's already been hyperinflated. And we're going to have another economic collapse. This one is serious. This is one that Trump is going to have to deal with right away. Airbnb caught engaging in kin punishment. I don't know why Lawrence Southern just keeps getting, like, relatives of Lawrence Southern, for whatever reason, seem to be the target for kin punishment a lot of the time. Now, that's not to say that maybe Stefan Molyneux's relatives or Stephen Crowder's relatives or somebody else's relatives have had this stuff happen to them as well. But Lawrence Southern has been very vocal about this. Now, this is when this got found out, like the executive that made this decision got fired, but she was unapologetic about it. And here's the thing, there are probably multiple, and again, this is part of the reason why I don't show my face and why I don't reveal my name for the most part, right? You have no idea when you're going to run into a believer who is just going to deny you, or even if they can't deny you, they will basically pull a Chinese social credit score and punish your relatives just for simply being related to you and deny them services. And that is really disturbing. Again, the Airbnb executive got caught and got fired. But again, right, there are definitely others around doing it. Julian Assange released. Well, that was long overdue. That's really all I'm going to say about that. I mean, I'm just going to say Hillary Clinton deserved to be embarrassed by the stuff that Julian Assange released. Robbie Starbuck, one of my favorite reporters, he exposed DEI at Tractor Supply, Ford, John Deere, Harley Davidson, Lowe's, Toyota, and other companies, Jack Daniels, a few other places. He was able to take, for instance, if you went before Robbie Starbuck started doing this, if you go to the company that I can't remember what the name of it is, but the website of the company, the company has its huge list of names of people that back their initiative. I can't remember specifically what it was called. That list is gone, apparently. Robbie Starbuck just blew the stuff out of the water. Just like with Sweet Baby, companies don't want to be associated with DEI or Bridge or whatever it's called, what it's called, at least not openly. That doesn't necessarily say they're not going to try to sneak something in the back door. Like the company I work for is definitely involved in DEI. I'm not going to tell you who I work for, but yeah, the company I work for does DEI as well. Yeah, probably not going to see as many companies getting outed next year as you did this year, but you're going to see a few. Oh my God, the Olympics. The opening ceremonies, the way the camera was moved into that festival of Pan to show that image. There is like the way that whole thing was done. And this guy deliberately let his fucking genitals be seen on national television. Okay, yes, it was in the background, but we've already seen that with Balenciaga, right? But the way the camera moved in on that shot, the only way you could have spotted it is if you had froze frame and exposed it, or you had to specifically go looking for it. But it was there. There's no way that could have been an accident. The the transgender singer at the opening ceremonies was an embarrassment. Convicted sex offenders competing. Like, oh my God. Oh yeah. The Australian breakdancer Ray Gunn, who is such an embarrassment that she has to actually get lawyers to go around and harass people that try to report on her and blackmail them and so on and so forth. Again, right? YouTube is willing to run block on the stuff. I mean, I have Ray Gunn's dance video though, and I'm not deleting it. Then you also had bad facilities, and oh yes, last but not least, the male boxer in the women's boxing competition, the one who won gold, and the amount of excuses that were given to try to deflect away from that. I mean, again, the International Boxing Federation has not allowed I can't remember what the name of that boxer's name is, Khalif or something like that. She is not being allowed to compete at the IBF Worlds. Yeah, that one was just an absolute disaster. don't know too much about what's going on in Germany, but I do know that that it's interesting. I don't know very much about that. Uh, I do know that the British government, ever since Labour got elected, is basically going the same route that the Biden administration was doing in the US. That's not going to work out very well for them in the long run. It's also not a coincidence that the British government are the ones attempting to platform the banning of websites and going after manosphere content creators and whatever, and trying to do it in such a way that it establishes a trend that will enable, say, the United States or Canada or other countries to follow their lead. That's kind of disturbing. Also very frightening. I don't want to be. I'm glad I don't live in Great Britain right now. Haitian immigrants eating pets. Unfortunately, there was not a smoking gun involved in that one, so it might not have even been real. Nick Fuentes, Your Body, My Choice. Okay, I don't listen to Nick, although I had a fan of Nick Fuentes actually start screaming and yelling at me when I posted up on my Twitter account that I'm going to reserve opinion on what Nick Fuentes said. Didn't listen to it. I know he got a lot of death threats and a lot of heat over it. Leftists got really mad when I told them that Nick Fuentes does not determine policy for the United States government or any state. But yeah, that one was also an AstroTurf campaign. The illegal actions around Alex Jones. The coup de grace with Alex Jones was the attempt to auction off his website, and to do it clandestinely. It got caught. It got stopped. But, the people who initially bought it with the intention of ruining its reputation before shutting it down. Now, the sale didn't go through because it was blocked, because the auction wasn't an actual auction. But, yeah, Al, I suspect that Trump may be having to intervene on this particular issue. And it's the news has obviously evolved beyond Alex Jones, but yeah. Ukraine fires missiles into Russia. Yeah, we all know why they were doing that. They were attempting to start World War III. It didn't work. Now, a couple people, when I reported on this, were saying, "Oh, there was no reason to panic." And you know what? They were probably right. But at the same time, there was a legit chance that something could have started. Right? It was very remote. The diplomats dealt with it, but yeah. That could have been way more serious than it actually was. United Health CEO killed by incel Luigi Mangione. Yeah, Luigi Mangione is an incel. Again, I got people incredibly angry at me when I pointed this out. I'm just going to point this out here. Luigi Mangione cannot have sex with women because of a medical complication. So he's celibate, and it's involuntary. So he's an involuntary celibate, which is long form for incel. Apparently, that was too much of a reach for leftists, who continue to deify this guy. When I was discussing him when this first happened, what I pointed out, and I'm going to point this out again, is that both Luigi Mangione and Elliot Rodger came from privileged backgrounds. And both of them were incredibly angry because of circumstances beyond their control, and they both acted out insanely and dangerously and evilly. I mean, and they're both not surprised, they're both incels. Right? But again, right, we've covered this on the feminists when we were covering the manosphere. Feminists literally deified an incel over this. charges against Daniel Penny were dropped. Well, actually, as I found out, he was found not guilty, but the DA office kept pushing on this to the bitter end. Like they tried to get him in jail to the bitter end. And they ignored the fact that there were also two black people that were restraining him, and he was being very threatening and dangerous on the subway at that time, and he had a criminal record as long as my arm. But nobody wanted to talk about that. Oh yes, one other thing about Luigi Mangione. They also compared Luigi Mangione to Kyle Rittenhouse. Those two events had very little in common. And I'm not going to go into all the specific details. Kyle Rittenhouse shot in self-defense, though. He didn't go up behind a CEO, shoot him in the back, and then pursue him and shoot him till he was dead, and then run off and try to evade the police. Whereas Kyle Rittenhouse immediately tried to turn himself in. And the last one is a really weird one. Saudi man drives through a Christmas market in Germany. It didn't seem like. Here's the thing: all of the known Muslim terrorist groups disavowed knowing him, and it's looking very much like he may have just been a lone nutcase. But again, this has echoing of an event that occurred in Waukesha, where somebody did this exact same thing. And, he was also a lone nutcase as well. So, yeah, very strange. I don't think Germany has the death penalty anymore, but that Saudi man is not ever getting out of jail. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
All right, sorry about that. Dylan Butler, oh my God. I don't remember much about that one. Tucker Carlson interviews Vladimir Putin. That was actually very interesting. I mean, it took Putin 20 minutes to answer one of the first questions that Carlson had provided to him. And I will have to agree that the basis of understanding where things are is you have to understand what happened in the past. And I honestly wasn't triggered by the interview in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I just listened to it with an open mind. And at the end of it all, you have to remember, and you have to say to yourself too, is that, well, this is the viewpoint from Putin. You may not like the guy, but this is how it is. I don't remember anything about Libs at TikTok, Nix, Benedict, whatever. Oh yeah, I saw the attack on Crocus City Hall. Oh fuck! As if that wasn't bad enough. I remember one of the guys ended up getting part of his ear cut off and was being forced into his mouth. Oh, definitely one of those cases of it being you reap what you sow, and you're not going to find anybody that's going to be terribly sympathetic. I think they were Georgian that did that attack, but I can't remember. Oh, Planet Fitness. Oh, fuck. I was somewhere here in the city, and I don't remember where it was, but I saw Planet Fitness and just thought to myself, holy shit, that one's still around. My God. Okay, cool. Starbucks and Disney confess to massive losses. I don't care about Starbucks because I don't drink their coffee or tea or whatever. I mean, I remember there was one on 5th and 8th. There was a Starbucks, but that's been long closed for over a year now, maybe a year and a half. I don't remember. I went in there once or twice. I did enjoy their green tea lattes or whatever the hell it is. Really, really tasty, but my God, is it ever fattening. And if they're in any sort of, like I said, if they're in any sort of financial problems, one, I don't know. 2, I don't care. And with everything else going on in the world, especially being from Seattle, you reap what you sow. But for Disney, I mean, again, we talked about this before, and it has been mentioned on other podcasts. Disney was able to weather the storm with the losses in the theater because the theme parks were, and the cruise lines were basically generating cash to cover up or cover over deficiencies elsewhere within the company. But when you've got some guy with a mustache wearing a dress to a little girl's shop, you got problems. And much like with Netflix raising their prices to cover revenue loss, Disney doing the same for park admission, let alone the closure of the Star Cruise or whatever the fuck it was called. I mean, that was only, they shut that down after 3 months of operation, maybe 4. I don't remember. It's not very long. And biggest thing, well, let's see. You were stuck in a building. You couldn't really leave. Weren't allowed to take any pictures. And the characters that were there, no one really wanted. Again, folks, I have not watched the sequels. I've only watched Rogue One, and from what I've heard, it's the best movie that was ever made. And even then, it was still, there was still way too much girl power, but that's another story. And with the Ejaculate being a stunning success, I mean failure, it's no wonder that Disney is not really saying very much unless they have to in terms of their losses. Iran fires missiles into Israel, whatever. Yeah, SPLC adds gays against groupers to list of anti-alphabet mafia groups. Oh my God. That should show you how wrong and twisted that whole situation is. Reason being is that it's incredibly inconvenient for it to be made available. And the SPLC has been on our show as a topic, 2 times, maybe 3, I don't remember. Anyway, it's not really that surprising. Truth about Nashville shooter revealed. I don't remember anything about that one. I remember it, but I don't remember the details, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah, Saudi Arabia petrodollar is over. Saudi Arabia is taking payment in other forms besides the American dollar. The problem will be is that all of the American dollars that have been sent out around the world will eventually come home to roost, and when it does, it's going to be game over. I've heard that Canada, speculation is that Canada is going to be hit very hard quickly enough. We'll be hit before the Americans do, but we'll also apparently come out of it sooner. Don't know, but we'll see. Airbnb caught engaging in punishment. Don't know. Julian Assange released. Oh, that's been a long time brewing. I was and still am deep enough into the weeds as to what's going on with Assange. He'll be brought in at some point into the States to testify. At least that's what the speculation is. Whether it actually happens or not, we'll see. We will see. Robbie Starbuck, oh, this was fucking amazing. What he did to Tractor Supply and Harley Davidson was fantastic. I don't remember anything about Ford specifically, although I think that there might have been something. John Deere, oh, that was embarrassing. Lowe's, I don't remember. Toyota. I'm assuming it would have been Toyota's American operations and maybe not Japan, but I don't know. Oh, the Olympic ceremonies. Oh, for fuck's sakes. My interpretation of the opening ceremonies for the Olympics is that it's supposed to be eye-opening, into what the Olympics are, and with it being not very, how shall I say this, not very flattering for the attitude towards humanity as a whole. I don't remember when I stopped giving a flying fuck about the Olympics. By and large, although I remember what I was doing when Canada finally won its first gold medal, being the host of the Olympics. That was when my son was climbing up the stairs. Didn't hear anything. I looked up and I saw that he was climbing up the stairs, and I've never moved so fast to get him. He was over halfway up there. But yeah, it's a real disaster. The male boxer, was there ever a DNA test done on that male boxer? Okay.
There was. He passed the Olympic one, but he didn't pass the IBF one, or the WBC or WBA one. So I guess,
it's kind of inconclusive.
It's inconclusive, which is why there were people defending this, and it's like no. At worst he falls, at best he falls in his trance, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because the only way that I would say, well, in that instance, it really should just come down to a professional lab determining, are we talking XX or are we talking XY? And if it is indeed XY, you're gone. If the sample comes out as XX and there seems to be unusually high levels of testosterone, which might be naturally occurring, might not, I don't know, then that's something else entirely different. Sex offenders, oh God, the break dancer. I didn't watch any of that, but I saw bits and pieces of it. Oh my fucking God. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, there's enough interpretive, stupid bullshit contests that are out there. Figure skating, synchronized swimming. To me, anything that involves judges, and this includes boxing, anything that involves judges should be eliminated. Like, it should just come down to empirical, statistical fact. That's it. You got your relays, you have your weightlifting, martial arts, maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on that one. Bad facilities, yeah, I guess. MSN covers up debauchery. I'm not surprised by that. Political protests in England and Germany. Two-tier enforcement in British government. I'm not surprised. Oh, Asian immigrants. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating. God, that was hilarious. But apparently that is a thing in Haiti, in the backcountry, is that at the end of the day, pets, cats and dogs are comprised of fat, muscle. Are they consumable? Well, apparently, boiled dog meat is a nice sweet meat just because of the adrenaline that's coursing through the veins of the animal as it's in the process of being killed. Anyway, next one is my body, your body, my choice. I can't disagree with the logic in that 4-sentence statement. And that's exactly what it is. If it's my body, my choice for her, then it'll come down to your body, my choice as to what I want to do with you afterwards. And again, it seems to be this double standard of what women can get away with and men can't. But that's a matter of debate that I should look into a lot more, which I probably won't, because I'll probably forget all about this afterwards. Oh yeah, the illegal actions around Alex Jones and InfoWars and the sale, selling to whatever that company was, and it was not done correctly. I don't know. From what I remember hearing, Jones has moved on to something else, and he's going to create another empire, and that's going to be that. And he has an established name, and if anybody thinks that he won't come back and do something similar, you've got another thing coming. You really do. Ukraine fires missiles into Russia. Yeah, whatever. I mean, Canada has supplied more than enough munitions and vehicles. I wonder how much of our military is now basically down to, oh my God, that makes sense. I have to wonder how much of the Western NATO militaries are less capable of defending themselves because they made donations. Things were diverted on purpose to Ukraine. And did you put in here that additional Canadian firearms would be donated to Ukraine if they wanted them?
It got kind of cut out because of the Christmas thing.
Okay, all right. So
but I mean, if you want to comment on it, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So, I mean, this is just more fuckery going on to support Ukraine, as we're going to further remove the ability of Canadian citizens to defend themselves or to at least have firearms. And the excuse is going to be we're just going to send it off to Ukraine. Fuck you. All of you. Anyway. United States. Oh, yeah. And so Luigi Mangione. What gets me about this whole thing are the women that are just wet between the legs, thinking that they'll be able to get his attention because he's now, at least he's been charged with murder. I don't fucking understand it. I mean, there was that one guy back in my time working at Shaw, so it was about 2014. He was basically darker skinned and he had these piercing blue eyes and a masculine build. And one of my coworkers, I do love the woman, but she's pretty conservative. She was even kind of gushing out between the legs in this one. I'm looking at her, I'm just thinking to myself, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, seriously, what is wrong with you? This is someone you should be staying away from. But hey, any person that's going to get involved with someone like that, anything goes wrong, and you're not alive anymore, guess what? You ain't getting any fucking sympathy from me. But this whole Mangione thing, it stinks to high heaven and back, and there's just so many things that are wrong with it. They can find a guy that kills the CEO within 5 days, but certain people that are required to testify at the J6 committee, it becomes really, really, really difficult to get them to actually go there, or the amount of internal interference to proceed with the, can't know if I'd say lawful, but with the committees that are dealing with J6, it suddenly becomes very difficult for key people to be there. I'm calling bullshit, so I don't believe anything about that one. Daniel Penny. I'm sorry, ladies, but if that's what's going to happen with someone trying to do the right thing to protect you, and he gets basically dragged through the mud and whatever else, you bitches are on your own. Good fucking luck. But hey, you're strong and independent, except when you really need a man to protect you. Which is it? Sally Man drives through Christmas market in Germany. Well, I'm surprised that they even said that the guy was from Saudi Arabia and that he was a refugee or he was a migrant. I really am. I mean, let's call it for what it is. I mean, you're still having some problems within the Canadian news to talk about someone's nationality, except if the person happens to be male and happens to be white, and then they'll say it. So I got nothing good to say about my disdain and my suspicion of people from the Middle East and also people from India. So not that they're bad people, but at the end of the day, these are people that generally don't work very well with North American society, so they should not be here. Sorry, but integration requires to be able to accept how things are, and you leave the way things were from where you came from. And if you insist on bringing the old world back in over here, I don't want you in. I'm sorry, but I just don't. You can't work for Bell Canada and TELUS and expect to be able to, or Rogers for that matter, as a part-time employee for both. And once they find out that you're working for the competition, you're going to have to make a choice. I really don't see it being any different than that for being someone being a dual citizen or someone that shouldn't be here. And that's all I got. Back to you.
Yep, as you can see, I posted up a couple of really interesting things I spotted on Twitter. The Wizard, I might be out of spells, but I'm not out of shells. That one just kind of stuck with me. That posting I posted up, and it's ironic because we are actually going to be going into the Canada content next, which is why I posted this up. This was an Angus Reid poll. Trudeau, Trudeau is going to be lucky if he wins his seat. That's how bad it is for him. That's how bad it is for the Liberals. Like the Liberals, this is almost going to be as bad as according to this poll, it's going to be almost as bad for the Liberals as it was in '93 for the Conservatives. But anyway, let's get into the last section on this. Because I mean, I kind of want to end there. Nothing personal. Again, this is one of those this show must go on kind of shows tonight. So, we're just going to get this. We're just going to grind this thing out here. Again, apologies for the low energy. I'm on day 14 of my 14-day rotation. I am tired. I'm exhausted. I'm ready to go to bed here. And it's like I'm not having a hard time staying awake tonight as opposed to last night. But I mean, it's like, I'm sitting here and the bed I sleep in is like literally off to my left. And it's like, it's looking really good right now.
And my bed's right behind my chair. So believe me, I want to crash. Okay.
So let's get into this. All right. So the Canada part. And of course, because we're both Canadians, we had to have a Canada section here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a lot of people forgot about the Jordan Peterson and the reason why he decided to leave Canada in the first place was because the Ontario College of Physicians decided to act like an enforcement agency on very flimsy evidence, and the courts in Ontario refused to hear the case. Now, it doesn't really particularly matter whether Jordan Peterson loses his license in Ontario. Several states in the U.S. have already stepped up and said that they will recognize and will give him a license in that state to operate, so he's not going to lose his license, right? Bottom line is that, I mean, and this can definitely be tracked to Rob Ford. This had to come, because it's a provincial affair, this had to have come from Rob Ford's office, because Rob Ford is definitely still one of Trudeau's stooges, which just absolutely blows my mind. I mean, it does. Again, I'm not super familiar with Ontario, but that just absolutely blows my mind. Daniel Smith passing LGBTQ legislation. This one was really obviously coming. There had been, in particular, not so much in Edmonton, but particularly in Calgary, they had been trying to. The two Edmonton and Calgary, they have two different mayors with two different styles. Amarjeet Sohi is woke, but he's not pushing a social justice agenda. He's pushing more of a green agenda. And what's happening in Edmonton is that you're getting bike lanes everywhere, and he's making it really difficult to drive around the city. And it's like if you're not keeping an eye on what's going on at City Hall in Edmonton, like as soon as you take your eyes off them, they're trying to sneak in more environmental regulations. They're trying to sneak in more of the 15-minute stuff as opposed to Calgary, which seems to be more about social justice. But one of the things, and it's very clear that Daniel Smith had been paying attention, because one of the things that really pissed off, which is why, of course, the at Pride Edmonton and Calgary decided not to invite the Conservatives back to their parades, little babies is one of the things that have been going on in the United States and in some parts of Canada is that, you know, you had an opt out as opposed to sign in procedure, which is basically the school could bring this program in and they didn't necessarily have to they could let the parent know down the road, but the parent had to opt out in order for the child to be taken out of the program. Now, there's two things that have been consistently coming up around a lot of these LGBTQ programs. First of all, and this has happened a couple of times, what they do is they will introduce this program and they will put it in, and this is one case in particular, they put it in a far room in the school. And when a parent got suspicious, he would go in and he would ask the school administrator where this particular class was taking place. And the school administrator would get the room wrong. And the teacher would go to the wrong end of the school. And then the administrator would call the teacher up and they would reset the event to make it look like it was something else. So by the time the parent got there, it was done for. And apparently what happened was that, and they would also move the room around so that the parent couldn't just come in and go to that room again the second time around to figure out what was going on. That worked for a while until, of course, I think what ended up happening is that they sent in a parent and they sent in a couple of other people and they just kind of like spread out over the school. So when the administrator gave them the wrong room, and then made the phone call, they would be like they were able to catch the administrator. But what they were attempting to do is they were attempting to hide, or when they sent out the program brochures for these programs, they would like hide the LGBTQ involvement. They would put it at the last end of the page, or it would just be a little blurb at the end or something like that. Or they would make it sound as innocuous as humanly possible to disguise it. And of course, if the parent didn't know to look, they would just sign off on it, right? And they wouldn't know to opt out. The way Daniel Smith changed the system around, you now have to be upfront with everything. The parent has to sign the kid in. They can't opt out, which makes it incredibly difficult for them to sneak anything through. They also changed the rules around. They definitely don't allow boys into girls' change rooms, etc. They made a whole pile of changes inside the school curriculum in Alberta, which makes it very difficult to try to an attempt to sneak this stuff past. And yes, she did go and specifically say things to the ATF, say that if they tried to pull some of the stuff that said they've been pulling in Colorado, for instance, that any teacher or any administrator caught doing that would be promptly fired, and they would fight it in court. Again, right, as a result, she got banned from the Pride Parades, and any conservative got banned from the Pride Parades, which is too bad, so sad. Pride Parades, at least the ones in Alberta, haven't been too debaucherous, but I understand the ones on the West Coast can get right out of hand. And there's kids around and guys with their junk fucking hanging out in the middle of the street and trying to get kids' attention and shit like that. So yeah, and of course, the mainstream media isn't covering that, but the mainstream media isn't the only game in town anymore. Don't really know too much about the ballot harvesting, but I wasn't surprised. I don't think it's really going to have that much of an effect on the next election because Trudeau is absolutely going to get smashed to smithereens. I looked at the stats for 338 Canada. Trudeau's popularity has sunk down so far now that the Bloc Québécois is now the official opposition, and the NDP is actually going to get. I think the Liberals are down to like 17 or 8, like 20 seats in total. Like they're going to be absolutely devastated. I want to keep an eye on C63 because what happened, and we talked about this yesterday, about how the U.S. government is desperately trying to get the Online Harms Act through for Biden to sign before he leaves office. Now, because when Trudeau prorogued the House, C63, all discussion about it stopped. Trudeau is not going, in particular, the moment Jagmeet Singh qualifies for his pension, Trudeau's goose is fucking cooked, and he knows it. So when he does bring the House back, like, is he going to push really hard to get the Online Harms Act passed before he leaves office? That's a serious question. C63, by the way, is worded so vaguely that it would effectively make, say, even me a potential target, a potential terrorist. That's how bad it was. Now, the next topic, Pride of Calgary. Okay, well, I mean, I already covered that when I covered Daniel Smith, so I'm not going to get into it again. Here's another one, though. From the federal government. CSIS labels parents opposed to gender ideology as terrorists under really flimsy pretenses. This one definitely came from Trudeau. And again, when the heads of CSIS were forced to answer questions about this, they got really fucking mealy-mouthed. G was really interesting because Westlock, Alberta decided that they had a referendum, and they voted, it's pretty solidly, to ban rainbow sidewalks. And of course, another city has jumped on board as well since then. But what ended up happening, and I actually had to discuss this with some of the people in the film community where I live, which is in Edmonton, about this. I run a film group, and I used to have meetings with this film group, but I don't anymore. But there's another guy who runs a film group, and him and I have had a really bad history of interaction between each other, of which he chose to engage in the hostile responses for the most part. He proposed at his group that we blacklist any artists from Westlock from participating in the film community in Edmonton. I, along with a few other people, I specifically, when I saw this at his group, I decided I was going to post up a counterpost saying, no, I do not engage in cancel culture. I'm not going to boycott the artists in Westlock, who probably, by the way, voted in favor of the rainbow crosswalks. I don't do cancel culture. I don't do PC. Yeah, artists from Westlock are going to be welcome here. Of course, I got a lot of support, but what ended up happening is that several people started to try and scream and yell me down. And one of them even brought in outsiders, like invited them into the group so that they could try and scream and yell at me even louder. Basically, what they were trying to do is they tried to mob me. What I ended up, including, by the way, a guy who we've interacted with before. We interacted with him back in 2020 over COVID. Really snotty, know-it-all guy. Not going to mention his name because he's a narcissistic prick. But, I saw him about 6 or 8 months before this event took place, and I waved to him on the street, and he just stuck his nose up at me. It's like, okay, you know what? Be an asshole then, right? But I mean, what ended up for me, what I had to do is I had to go and kick people out of my group. And this is a filmmakers group over politics. This was something that I had been very proud of, right? Like, I had never blocked anybody from participating in my film group, regardless of whether they were a feminist or whether they were a liberal, whether they were a conservative or whether they were trans, whatever, right? Like, I mean, I was there supporting the community, and I would allow pretty much anything except spam. And for the first time ever, I had to kick people out of the group. And I had to kick one guy specifically out of the group because he was quite clearly inviting people into the group to scream and yell at me. And that's just not acceptable. So this was a very heavy loaded topic. I said at the time when this happened that there were going to be other towns that decided to jump on board, and another town has, and you're going to probably see another town and another town. Once it gets started, which is why they freaked out over Westlock, because once one town does it, and then another town does it, and then another town does it, and it's like before you know it, it just sort of like starts to grow organically, which is exactly what happened. Robert Pickton murdered. Oh, wow. We could get into some big conspiracies about Robert Pickton. Robert Pickton was an individual that I had the misfortune of running into before he got arrested. It was just sort of like I was going into a place and he was going out of a place, but it was still, right? Like, he just gave me the creeps. And I've had discussions about Robert Pickton before, in particular with True Crime Vancouver, and I am pretty solidly convinced that he was not acting alone. Am I surprised he got murdered? No, I'm not. Justin Trudeau cowering away from the Calgary Stampede. Well, I mean, Justin Trudeau's MO for the last year and a half or so has been, when he comes to Alberta, like, he will fly into Calgary and then he will do a TV appearance or he will do a radio show and he won't inform Daniel Smith. And then when he's done, like, he won't even stay overnight. Like, he will fly back the same day because he's a snip. And of course, like, I mean, the year before, they had to sneak him through the kids section of the Stampede in order to get him to the stage because he was going to be booed so horrifically. Like, this year, he didn't even bother to show up, which is not that big of a surprise. Canadian immigrants shitting on the beach. Well, this is what happens when you import third world, you become third world. You see, it used to be that the standards for admitting immigrants into Canada is that you had to have specific skills to get in. And now, they're just letting pretty much anybody in, including individuals from India who apparently have never heard of a fucking, because, like, the beach in particular where this happened, there are porta potties, like a whole line of them, like enough of them there that everybody can have access to them, yet they chose to go and shit on the beach anyway. And of course, in particular, the NDP came out, and this is part of the reason why the NDP is going to have problems on its own in the next election. Like, the NDP actually defended this shit. Like, literally.
NDP defending the shit. Defending the shitters. It seems to be a case of, I shit you not.
I shit you not. The NDP openly, and the mainstream media. Like,
The
this was
NDP was a shithead leaving them in the toilet, but that's another story.
Yeah, they literally tried to justify this, and they pulled the race card, and it's like, what part of defecating on fucking public property isn't sinking in with you? Other people use that beach. What, you think they want to go swimming in the lake and seeing a fucking turd float past them as they're doing it? Like, again, right? There's this particular beach where this was happening. There are porta potties, plenty of them. They don't use them, right? And it's like, yeah, cultural tolerance stops for me when you have immigrants that are too fucking lazy to go up and use a porta potty fucking toilet. That's just me. Shadow campaign to replace Daniel Smith. Oh, talk about a miserable failure. It got caught. It was a guy in Calgary. He got caught really early on trying to do this. He still went ahead and tried. Anyway, he actually tried to do a plebiscite at the Conservative election, a call of confidence on Daniel Smith, and got his ass unceremoniously handed to him. It was like 97 or 96% in favor of Daniel Smith staying in. So, but they still tried. This is the same sort of thing that they tried also with Trump, where they tried to load up Republican primaries with traditional Democrat voters, and that also didn't work. Trudeau did survive a one non-confidence vote. He's not going to survive the first one in 2025. The reason why he survived was because Jagmeet Singh decided that his pension was more important than the people of Canada. That's the reason why he survived it. The reason why he got that non-confidence motion was pretty obvious. But again, with Jagmeet Singh, it's his pension before the people of Canada. Now, this is one that's really closer to Rearson's home turf. The city of Calgary, the city council in Calgary, decided that they were going to allow landed immigrants to vote in the municipal elections. They then turned around and they tried to sneak this in so that it could be like landed immigrants could vote in all municipal elections all over the province. It got shut. It got slammed down very strongly, but not overwhelmingly. It was less than 60%, but I mean, it did get slammed down pretty hard. And right, but this is exactly what the folks on the right have been, what some independent news agencies are saying. They're bringing these immigrants in to stock the voting blocks, is what they were attempting to do here. Provincial election in BC and New Brunswick, the one in New Brunswick went solidly conservative. The one in BC, as expected, because I was born and raised in BC, the vote was split. The NDP there has a bare majority. I say bare, I mean, I'm talking like 2 seats. And they're going to have to govern a lot more carefully there, because it's like they don't have the margin of error that, say, Justin Trudeau has, where he can afford to lose a couple of by-elections and not worry. The NDP, if they lose actually, you know what, if they even lose one by-election, it goes from being, say if it's 37-35, which is, I think, how it turned out. He loses one by-election, it goes 36-36. So if there is one thing that I am glad about, though, I think it's 37-34 or whatever it is, but it's like, if there's one thing I am glad for, at least the Greens don't get to determine environmental policy. It's just the NDP. So it's not going to be all that bad. In case you're wondering, the Green Party in British Columbia makes the NDP look civilized by comparison. The Hamas riot, okay. This is something that Pierre Poilievre is definitely going to have to do something about when he gets elected. If you have immigrants here calling for the death of the country that they immigrated to, it's like, yeah, okay, gee, that's great. Get the fuck out. Actually, we're not just telling you to get out. We're going to send we're going to send immigration. We're going to send the police, RCMP over. They're going to fucking perp walk you out to the fucking car. And we're going to put you on a fucking plane and we're going to fly you out. End of story. That's pretty much something you're going to probably see happen in the U.S. And that's definitely something that Poilievre has definitely got to do here. The targeting of Jewish businesses in Montreal by this group rings eerily similar, although it wasn't exactly the same thing because they didn't break the windows and destroy the businesses. But it's reeks. And by the way, this is something that I keep telling some of the people in here that have fucking the Jew behind every fucking blade of grass stuck up their fucking ass and just cannot stop talking about the Jews all the time, right? Like, not every fucking Jew is in on this, right? Like, stop blaming the fucking Jews for every single thing that goes wrong globally, right? But this really, I got some very eerie echoings of Kristallnacht. And if you don't know what Kristallnacht is, the brown shirts in all of Germany, at the behest of the Nazi Party, were allowed to run rampant in Jewish neighborhoods of cities and destroy businesses as they saw fit. Destroy them, vandalize them, burn them down. It was like, and there was no law enforcement there to stop them. Okay, it wasn't quite this bad in Montreal, but it still happened. And yeah, stop fucking blaming the Jews for every single fucking thing that goes wrong in the world. Lauren Southern. Oh, this one was tied into Tenet Media. Now, Canada has had its own Russian disinformation bullshit propaganda story going on. They tried to blame, CBC in particular, tried to blame the trucker convoy on Russian disinformation. No, I'm not kidding you. Me and Rusin actually covered it at the time. There were a couple of CBC reporters who tried this. I think there was maybe even a sitting MP that tried to blame this. Tenet Media, though, had Russian ties. Now, DDJ is of the opinion that the people who received money from the Tenet Media deal knew where this money was coming from and took the money anyway. Lauren Southern was the only Canadian in that group that took the money. She had to go to, and she didn't voluntarily go to Ottawa. Someone from CSIS showed up at her door. And keep in mind, right, I have a very mixed, in fact, if anything about Lauren Southern, I'm kind of like a little bit negative about her, right? But they had CSIS show up at her door and pretty much suggest to her that it would be tragic and unfortunate if her daughter was forced into foster care if she didn't testify on this issue, which she happily and rather pointedly and rather angrily let the MPs know when she got there. Yeah, I got to admit, Lauren Southern was a boss. She dismantled the propaganda because what the propaganda was trying to do is that they took the 6 or 7 content producers and they added up all of their following and all of their views, and then he tried to play that off as Tenet Media's reach, when in fact, and this is something that Lauren Southern had to point out, Tenet Media only had a few 100,000 people. I was one of them, by the way. in there, and that there wasn't really any video on there that got more than like maybe about 50,000 views off of Tenet. There was a couple of MPs that tried to suggest that maybe she was a Russian asset. There was one, oh my God, this one liberal MP. She like literally suggested openly that because Lauren Southern interviewed this person or this person that she somehow agrees with them, and Lauren Southern actually had to go back to this she had to retort back to this MP that she is currently interviewing her, and that does not mean that she agrees with her. And of course, all that liberal MP had was snark. So she did a great job. Still not gonna follow her. Still not going to. I'm never going to actually do an interview with her or speak to her directly. I don't have any interest in becoming friends with her. Everything about what Lauren Southern does suggests that she is highly self-centered and incredibly fucking narcissistic. And she and this is no word of a lie. The story out of the manosphere is that she had several, when she was younger, she had several propositions from people who were outright millionaires to marry her. And she was so full of herself that she was saying, no, I'm not going to marry you. I'm going to marry a billionaire. And of course, that she went to Australia and married a Fed who was poor. Well, compared to a billionaire anyway. So, yeah, I have a very mixed opinion about Lauren Southern. Jordan Peterson and Godsod both leaving Canada. Well, that was no surprise. Jordan Peterson was very obvious. Godsod is Jewish and he lives in Montreal. And if you're thinking that what happened with both the provincial and the municipal and the federal government. Oh, by the way, I got to point out with the Hamas riot, Justin Trudeau was partying it up at a Taylor Swift concert while the riots in Montreal were happening. Got to point that out. That what happened in Montreal didn't play a factor in Godsod choosing to leave Montreal and leave Canada. Yeah, no, I got a bridge I want to sell you. And the last one is, and of course we'll do the guns as well. He passed yet more, and this one was just absolutely fucking stupid. Like, passed gun legislation to confiscate these guns and send them to the Ukrainians. Yeah, I wish I was making that up. I'm not. I just didn't have any room to put that on the list at the time, and it didn't show up as a list of topics, which is why it isn't being discussed. But yeah, it did happen. Now, the last topic, Justin Trudeau forced to prorogue House in light of cabinet resignations. Well, here's what was going on. Daniel Smith had gone on the record, and I think Scott Moe had quietly pretty much said I don't think he'd said it out loud, but I think Doug Moe in Saskatchewan was doing the exact same thing. But Daniel Smith openly said that, yeah, Trudeau is not going to survive an election. And it is becoming very clear to us that what they're attempting to do is they're trying to burn the house down before Poilievre takes over. So I'm having to have very little choice but to institute firewalls between us and Ottawa to limit their damage. Now, apparently knowing what was going on was a step too far for, I'm guessing, a substantial number of people sitting in the cabinet, not just in the cabinet, but the backbenchers as well in the Liberal Party. And they were like looking at him and they were going like, no, 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 no. I don't care if he's a fucking globalist. I don't like he went that. I'm going to bet that at least a couple of these people talked to some of the globalists, talked to some of Soros's people back in wherever the fucking Soros people meet and said like, no, he's not going to fucking destroy this country. We're not going to allow him to destroy this country. And speculation is that they went back and said, okay, you guys resign and force Trudeau out, and we'll just deal out with the fallout. Because it was very clear that the Liberal, even including the backbenchers, the people, the MPs sitting in the House, most of whom are probably not going to be back after the next election, have decided that no, Justin, you do not get to destroy the country just because we're sick of you and you know you're going to lose the next section and you're not going to destroy the country and we're going to stop you. That was apparently a step too far. So he had basically three options. He could either resign, call an election, or prorogue the House. He decided to prorogue the House so there won't be any House sittings. The House won't resume sitting until sometime early in 2025. Wouldn't surprise me if he signed a sweetheart deal with Jagmeet Singh on the side to guarantee Jagmeet Singh's pension before the non-confidence motion is called. I mean, I didn't really think that. I thought Trudeau was going to make it all the way through 2024, but I mean, he did, but he's limping out of 2024 into 2025. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rierson.
Okay. Oh, Jordan Peterson, College of Physicians. Yeah, I mean, this is really no different than the Ontario Human Rights Commission that has forced that mayor in Emo, Ontario, to pay a $5,000 fine. He basically said no, they're garnishing his wages from it. Doug Ford is the epitome of a CINO, conservative in name only. I mean, he's very happy to do what Trudeau wants. And I'll leave it at that. So, with everything that's going on with all of this, it's my knowledge what we want to do to correct, or shall we say, punish Peterson. No one's stepped up to the plate to actually take him on or to re-educate him. And I wish they would, because I really want to see them get destroyed. So that's all that to itself. The Daniel Smith passes the alphabet legislation. I'm sorry, but I do not disagree with that. I think, and we talked about this, and it came down to it was about 80% of Canadians polled across the country, or the survey of however many they had, I believe it was about 1,000 or so. 80% basically said they don't disagree. In fact, they fully support this. Again, we've hit that saturation point of the alphabet community pushing their shit on us, and we're starting to put, and people are pushing back now. I don't remember about the ballot harvesting being easier, but that wouldn't surprise me that he's probably. I won't be surprised if they're going to attempt to do that. In light of everything else that they've fucking done, that has been questionable. Oh yeah, C-63, the Online Harms Act. This is brought in by someone, RV, whatever the fuck his name is, who apparently went into politics to deal with Islamophobia. So I'm not going to say anymore. So whatever it takes to censor people. Pride and Calgary and Edmonton ban Smith and conservatives. Oh, baby, your feelings hurt, your fifis are. Do you need to change a tap on? Do you need to? Do you have a problem with Daniel Smith? Well, it depends. Because you're shitting your pants over the whole goddamn thing. No loss there. CSIS labels parents opposed to gender ideology as terrorists. Well, shit, you're going to have about 80% of the population be labeled as terrorists. How's that going to go over well? And what if enough of those terrorists are Muslim immigrants? I'm sure we're not going to talk about that, at least not in the news. Looks like Alberta votes to remove the rainbow crosswalks, which coincides with, that one was, I think it was about 53 votes. That's what what it came down to. And the Westlock City Council, they're all they are very progressive. They didn't like it, but they had to follow through with what the public wants. So perfect. Robert Picton. Yeah, we went into the weeds on that one because I was the one that brought some very interesting material that could very well be what's happened behind the scenes. I mean, at the end of the day, folks, let's not forget pigs will eat anything. Anything. If it's edible, they'll eat it. Human remains included. Who? Oh, I believe Andrew Shear is connected to the Picton farm as well. I don't remember if it's him or someone else, but there's a conservative. I believe it was Andrew Shear, which is probably why that could have been one of the reasons with his leadership, with him winning the leadership as well, when he did at the time for the Conservatives. Picton got murdered. Well, I mean, as you said, the guy was sketchy as fuck. But just like with Mangione, there's a lot more to the story. We just don't know what it is. Trudeau cowers away from the Calgary Stampede. Oh, fuck. No. Of all of the things that Trudeau has done that's stupid, this is not one of them. Nobody here wants to see him. Again, I saw him during Stampede 2015, 2016, 2015, when he won, because my MP at the time, pubic follicle, Kent Hare, he was at the 10th Street LRT station. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have brought a couple of about 4 or 5 cartons of eggs, and these cartons are 30 eggs each. I would love to have those to be absolutely rotten. Pass it out and just throw it at them. No fucks given, and yeah, what I wish I knew then what I know now is definitely the case of that. And yeah, he didn't go to Stampede this year, and assuming he survives, which he won't, I don't think you'll never see. I doubt you will ever see Trudeau in Alberta. And like you said, Hiroki, if he is here, he's in and out faster than a small dick and a woman's twat. He's there, but you just don't know it. You don't feel it. Canadian immigrants shitting on the beach. Oh, Jesus Christ. I have no words that are going to be nice. And for once, I actually don't want to say any more than what you've already said. And I said it before already, which is, yeah, when you import the third world, your country turns to shit. And in this case, literally. I don't know what the culture is over in India, and I'll be honest, I don't fucking care. I really don't care. If that's what they do over there, hey, you know what? Great, fine. Fucking defecate in public. I don't care. You don't do that here. And as far as I'm concerned, anyone that is caught defecating on film should be investigated and fined and be embarrassed publicly for doing it. Like, with there being no consequences to having people not drop their pants and drop a load or drop a deuce and you get away with it, they don't. And these fuckers have also been caught dumping garbage in the back roads when they're supposed to bring it to a dump properly, as well as poaching, catching salmon when they're not supposed to. I would blame Trudeau. But it comes down to at the end of the day, Trudeau's an idiot. Like, he is a useful idiot, but he's still an idiot, and he's a puppet. So he's just being told to do what his puppet masters are telling him. Shadow campaign to replace Danielle Smith. Yeah, well, good fucking luck. Ain't gonna happen. There's been enough that she has said, and there's a number of things that she has said that a lot of things that I like to what she has said. And there's quite a few things apparently that she's done that I'm not happy with. So I'm on the fence. Trudeau survives non-confidence vote fucking multiple times, especially after the one that really should have woken people up to what the fuck's going on was the first non-confidence vote on the carbon tax. And it showed not just the Liberal Party, but most of the NDP, pretty much all of the NDP were behind that as well. And do we have anything more on that? Okay. Oh, okay. We'll go back. That's going to be the last one as well, too. I'll say my piece about what's going on with the NDP as well. But yeah, I mean, Jagmeet Singh has proven to be a toothless tiger. He's the dog that's all bark and no fucking bite. Calgary tries to sneak in landed immigrant voting. That fucking pisses me off, and I already want to get out of this goddamn fucking city to begin with, and that's not helping. I'm sorry, but permanent residents, part-time citizens are not. If it was up to me, the fireworks on. I want to get going here, but anyway. At the end of the day, Canada should just fucking ban dual citizenship. Either you're going to be loyal to the country or you're not. And if you don't want to lose connections to the home country, then fucking go back. Get out. I mean, things with my spouse and I aren't the greatest. She's kept her permanent resident status because when the time comes that she doesn't feel that she needs to live here anymore, she wants to go back to Japan, and that'll probably happen within 3, maybe 4 years. But she's not voting, and she even agrees that she shouldn't be able to vote. So that should tell you something. And that really is no different than all of the fuckery going on with the voting south of the border, where they're trying to gain the vote to begin with. Provincial elections in BC and New Brunswick. The electoral results in BC is really messed up, and the whole thing with the foreign interference seems to be connected with David Eby with China, so we'll see how that goes. But again, the tradition in BC, as I've understood, was that a member of the opposition party loses one seat to be Speaker of the House to have a sense of balance, and the BC Conservative Party basically said, "No, we're not doing that. That's your problem, not mine." So I think that and the Greens have basically said they're not going to do that either. So the NDP basically had to lose one of their seats to have the speaker position filled, and that leaves a very interesting balance. And again, I won't comment on New Brunswick because I don't care, and I want to get out quickly here. But again, the BC Conservatives ran a very good campaign, even though they were not as organized as the NDP was. But that's just, I guess, has been the underlying stress, and the public being tired of, kind of like Brazil. Brazil has so many socialist parties. It's not funny. So you basically have, you've got NDP, and then you've got NDP Light, which are the Liberals. So take that however you will. Hamas riot. Montreal targets Jews. Again, when you bring in the third world into your country, there's going to be fucking problems. Now, there's an interesting theory, or a set of theories within the Jewish faith, where you've got the secularists, you've got the Jews that worship, shall we say, God, and then you've got the Talmudists, the Talmudic branch. And it seems to be that the Talmudic branch is where we have there's a Jew behind every blade of grass. And from what I understand, which isn't very much, I admit, but I'm aware of it more than most people aren't. What's in the Talmud is really, really dark, sinister, freaky shit, which could apparently be traced all the way back to the worship of Moloch that wound its way into what was the Khazar Empire at the time. Lauren Southern. I don't have anything good to say about that woman. She had a very interesting performance, and that's really the only way that I'm going to describe it with the House of Commons Committee with Tenant Media. But fuck, whatever. Jordan Peterson and God sadly both leaving Canada. Oh yeah, and the other thing and with the Montreal riots, Trudeau did nothing because he was too damn fucking busy being and acting creepy at a fucking Taylor Swift concert, getting friendship bracelets, and for every and each opportunity to have his face be plastered on social media. Peterson got God Saad both leave Canada. I wasn't aware that Saad actually is Canadian, and I remember hearing from William Shatner, who is Jewish, that Montreal at that time was still a problem towards people of the Jewish faith. Things were bad back in the 50s and 60s, and it looks like it hasn't gotten any better. And finally, Trudeau forced to prorogue. So, did he actually say he's proroguing government, or this is speculation still? Rookie?
He's prorogued it. I don't know when he's going to be bringing it back. It will have to. He did prorogue it just before Christmas. I don't remember when.
Okay, because I've heard that was an option for him if he does.
Well, it's really the only option he has that didn't require him to resign immediately.
All right. Okay, all right. Yeah, because I'm seeing here from the Toronto Sun, Trudeau proroguing Parliament becomes more likely. So it hasn't happened yet. Now, there is the non-confidence vote that's going to go through a committee, which is going to make things more interesting. So we will see. This hasn't been set in stone yet, but time will tell. So either way, and I don't think Trump is going to do anything in terms of any action against the government or any actions against the Canadian government if it's prorogued, because there's nothing can be done at that point. So would he be? We'll see. I don't know. I really don't know. And other than that, I ain't got nothing more to say.
Okay, I found out something very interesting. Here, let me just put it up here.
Yeah.
Brittany Venti, the woman who tried to basically who sent her underage porn to Rollo Tomasi.
Oh yeah.
Late last year, who basically managed to get, because she has such luscious boobies, was able to turn Think Before You Sleep into a simp where he was formerly a MGTOW. And this is something that happens with MGTOW quite frequently. They call them the one blowjob away MGTOW crowd. And it was like, and then of course he got the guy to the point where he was willing to marry her, and he spent a significant amount of money on a wedding ring, and she just dumped him. She's not particularly bright. She's not particularly smart. She's not particularly bright. She's got a nice racket. She's got a nice body. Her face is kind of like, yeah. I'd give her probably about a 6 or 7. Well, no, she's got a nice rack. So the rack will get her up to an 8. It'll get her up to like a 7 or an 8 with me. But she has decided that she is going to be stepping away from doing YouTube content. Probably because a lot of her credibility has taken a fucking hit. And she just keeps posting up stupid, insane stuff, which is barely fucking watchable, at least by me. So that was the Manosphere for the win before the end of the year. And also, and I don't know whether this is true or not, because I was also looking on Twitter. Apparently, Michaela Peterson was caught wandering around in Tate's mansion while Tate was doing a live show. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it doesn't really matter to me because I don't have an opinion really on Tate one way or the other. But take the Manosphere for the win. Oh, and by the way, guys, Happy New Year. It turned 20. It became 2025 8 minutes ago. So,
Right.
Happy 2025, everybody. That is it for tonight. That concludes the year in review. And yeah, if we had done it as one whole show, it would have been 4 hours and 15 minutes long as of right now. I'm glad I broke it up. This was definitely a show must go on. I actually kind of enjoyed the show tonight. I will see you for, I guess it's number 4. I'm trying to get so many. I've been doing so many of these lately. It's kind of hard to keep track. 419, where we'll do predictions for 2025. Thank you all, though. If you listen to both of these shows, I hope you enjoyed the review. It's going to be a very interesting 2025. And yeah, we will probably be doing that show. It won't be on a Sunday because the first Sunday of the year is always a personal day for me. So it will either be Saturday or Monday that show will take place. And I haven't made up my mind when yet. But that is it. Thank you very much for showing up.